The knock hit hard 3 times, shaking the thin wood door. Mary froze by her cold stove, flour dust still on her hands. 6 shadows stood outside, tall and wide, blocking the last orange light of evening. Her heart slammed against her chest like a fist. She grabbed the only thing near her hand. Not a gun, not a knife. A small wooden spoon. She marched to the door and pulled it open wide, standing straight, spoon raised like a sword. The men outside stared. One young cowboy actually laughed, a short, surprised bark before catching himself. "Ma'am," said the tall one in front, dust thick on his hat, eyes tired and red from the trail. "We mean no harm." "I know you don't," Mary said, voice steady even though her knees shook. "But 6 grown men don't come knocking soft. You come stomping like you on the ground, not in my house." The tall cowboy blinked. Behind him the others shifted, unsure whether to smile or step back. "We've been 3 days without food," he said, quieter now. "We heard, we hoped." Mary looked past him at the horses, thin and worn, breathing hard in the dusty light. She looked at the men's faces, cracked lips, hollow cheeks, eyes too tired to hide their hunger. Something in her chest twisted, not fear now, something older, something her mother taught her long ago. She lowered the spoon slowly. "Wipe your boots," she said, "all 6 of you." Nobody moved for a second. Then the tall one, Jake, let out a breath, almost a laugh, and started scraping mud off his boots against the step. "Ma'am," he said, "you're either the bravest woman on this trail or the craziest." Mary turned back toward her empty kitchen, toward the cold stove and the flour sack that held almost nothing. "Maybe both," she whispered, mostly to herself. Behind her, 6 hungry men stepped inside, waiting to see what she would do next. The men sat on the floor watching her, 6 pairs of tired eyes waiting. Mary stood at her table, staring at the flour sack. Her hands trembled. Flour, salt, nothing else. How does she feed 6 men with that? She could feel Jake's eyes on her back, steady, curious. She turned around slow. "Give me a moment," she said, keeping her voice calm even though her mind raced. She lit the stove first, struck the match, watched the small flame catch the last dry wood, growing orange, then hot. The kitchen filled with warmth, pushing back the evening cold. Then she did something strange. She walked past the men, straight to the door, and stepped outside into the dark. "Ma'am," Jake called after her, half standing, "where are you?" "Stay," she said, not turning around. "Eat with your eyes for now." Outside, she knelt by her small garden, fingers digging fast through dry leaves and hard dirt. Wild onions. A few herbs hiding, forgotten by everyone but her. She pulled them up like buried treasure and ran back inside, dirt still on her hands. The men stared at her, confused. One young cowboy leaned toward Jake and whispered, "Is she gonna cook weeds?" Jake didn't answer, he just watched. Mary mixed the flour with water, working the dough fast with rough, sure hands. She chopped the onions small, added salt, folded everything together. She pressed the dough flat and laid it on the hot pan. It hissed. Smoke curled up, carrying a smell that made every man in the room go quiet. Warm, rich, alive. Jake leaned forward, nose lifting toward the smell like he couldn't help it. "That don't smell like flour and salt no more," he said slowly. Mary flipped the bread with quick fingers, hiding her nervous heart behind a calm face. "Wait," she said, "you'll see." The fire cracked, the bread turned gold, and 6 hungry men leaned in closer, waiting to taste what a poor woman's empty kitchen had somehow made. Mary set the plates down slow, her hands shaking just a little. Plain bread, wild onions, nothing fancy. She stepped back, waiting. Nobody moved. Her stomach twisted tight. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe 6 hungry men would look at this simple food and feel cheated. She wanted to say sorry, wanted to explain, but her throat locked up. Jake picked up a piece first. He turned it over in his rough fingers, studying it like it might answer a question. The other men watched him, waiting to see what he'd do. He took a bite. His eyes closed, he went still. Nobody breathed. Mary's heart pounded so loud she thought everyone could hear it. Then Jake let out a long, slow breath. "Ma'am," he said, voice rough, "this is the best thing I've eaten in 3 days." The room broke open. The other men grabbed their bread fast, eating like starving wolves. One young cowboy, barely more than a boy, went quiet halfway through his piece. His eyes went shiny and wet. "Tastes like my mama's cooking," he said softly, looking down. Nobody laughed at him. The room stayed soft, gentle, full of something bigger than hunger. Mary poured water for each man, and they drank it slow, like it was gold. As they ate, Jake asked her questions, careful and quiet, about her husband, about her children, about the hard winters alone on this dry land. Mary answered slow at first, then faster, like a door opening after being shut too long. Jake listened close, his hard, dusty face growing softer with every word she spoke. "You made all this," he said, looking at the empty flour sack, "from nothing." He shook his head slow. "That ain't just cooking, ma'am, that takes real courage." Mary felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Anyone would have done the same," she said. Jake looked at her steady, his eyes serious now. "No," he said, "not anyone. Most folks turn hungry strangers away." Outside, the sky turned orange, then dark. Inside, 6 men ate their fill, and something quiet and new began to grow between a tired woman and a dusty cowboy. The other 5 men thanked Mary and walked out slow, full and sleepy, toward their horses in the dark. Only Jake stayed behind, standing near the door, turning his hat around and around in his rough hands. Mary's children peeked out from the back room, small faces curious, watching the tall stranger who wouldn't leave. "Ma'am," Jake said and stopped. He looked down at his hat, then up at her again. "I've ridden a lot of miles, seen a lot of places." Mary waited, her heart beating strange and fast. "Never seen someone give so much," he said slowly, "when they had so little." The room went quiet. Even the fire seemed to hold its breath. "You have a strong heart," Jake said. His voice shook just a little. "Made me think. Maybe I've been riding all these years looking for something. A home, maybe, and maybe—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "Maybe I just found it." Mary's breath caught. She couldn't speak for a moment. "I don't have much," Jake said fast now, like he needed to get the words out before he lost his nerve. "Just strong hands. I know cattle. I could help you here. Not just tonight. Every night if you'd let me." Tears filled Mary's eyes, but they weren't sad tears. They were the kind that come when hope walks back through the door after being gone too long. "My husband used to say," she whispered, "never turn away a hungry man." Jake looked at her, something soft breaking across his tired, dusty face. "I'm not hungry anymore," he said quietly. "Not for food, anyway." Mary smiled, small and shy but real. Her children smiled too, peeking from the doorway. Outside, the sky had turned fully dark, filled with bright stars, like tiny fires burning far away. Inside the small house, next to an empty flour sack and a stove still warm from cooking, something new had started. Not just a meal shared, not just strangers fed. A new beginning, built from flour, salt, courage, and a cowboy's heart, finally home.